Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Toxic to Triumph. I'm your host, Matthew Pfeiffer. I have on a very special guest today. Him and I bumped into each other on TikTok. He's also on Instagram. I'm here with Coach T Spice, who is a perceptionist, mindset coach, and I think you said mental hygienist, you said. And so I'm looking forward to having this conversation with him. And I think that you guys are really going to enjoy this. And Coach T Spice, if you don't mind just introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us how things are going on in LA. And I'm going to guess that everything is close to perfect because looking through the window, I can see that it's like close to perfect weather.
Yes, indeed. I moved out here for sunshine and palm trees, and I'm not disappointed. I am disappointed some parts of the year. Our winter, but it's not like back home. I'm from New York, but I am enjoying it out here, and I am honored to be having this conversation with you. I absolutely love and am inspired by your content. Bro, I could go on and on about that, but I won't. My name is T Spice, Talmud Spicer, for those who can pronounce it. And I am a mindset coach, a perceptionist, a mental hygienist, a life coach, all of the above. And I'm on a mission to inspire 1 million people to live a life by design instead of by default. I have programs, coaching programs that support people in developing clarity, consistency, and confidence. But I've also written a book called Have the Guts to Follow Your Guts Why Playing It Safe is the Biggest Risk of All. And really briefly, that's just a 9 chapter compilation of my life's experience with jumping out of my comfort zone from start to finish, beginning, middle, and end. And it has an intention of inspiring you to go after what's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. That is one of the biggest reasons why I had you on here. I mean, that's what you just described really describes like the intentions on this podcast in terms of going from toxicity to triumph, from toxic to triumph, whether it be relationships, whether it be a work atmosphere. And so when you talk about living a life by design, so a lot of people don't know this, but my tagline is suffer, learn, change. And, it's feel like it's very similar with you when you're talking about living a life by design rather than just accepting like what's in front of you. What does that mean to you, and what do you mean by that when you're talking to your clients about living a life by design? What How would someone realize that they are doing that, or whether or not they need to change into someone who's living a life by design?
What I would do, what I would want to say is, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that most people have a vision in their head of what would truly be fulfilling as far as their lifestyle is concerned, right? Some of us are afraid and hesitant to say that we have certain money goals. A lot of us want to be millionaires, but we back off of these ideas because we feel like they're too big,
Mhm.
right? They're not realistic,
Yeah.
and we associate optimism with being naive. And so that puts us in a place where we're living a life suppressed. We're not expressed, we're suppressed. And that leads to a lot of the depression and anxiety that we experience on a daily basis. But we don't realize that it's because we're not showing up as our true selves.
Hmm.
So when I say live a life by design, first I'm saying that vision that you have is possible, but that's the easy part. Like that's just step one. It's definitely possible. If anybody has it, you can have it,
Right.
right? And we only have one life as far as we know for sure
Right.
to go ahead and materialize it. So the live by design part is the decision, a decision to step up, roll the dice, see what's on the other side, and know that this process, this quote, this one word, this one line word is like a carrot, because it's so much easier to say live by design instead of by default than it is to actually do the work, the inner
Yeah.
work,
Absolutely.
you know. But it's all about having that vision, believing that it's real, and taking steps towards it.
And what does that work look like when someone feels like their vision is too big? What How does that mean they need to shrink their vision? Does that mean they need to break it down into like bite-sized chunks? What does that look like?
You know what it is.
I know
Yes,
what it is,
indeed.
but we gotta break it down for the audience. But I
For
think
sure.
you and I have been through that fear and that anxiety.
Wow, yeah, for sure. For sure. Now, uh, I think a lot of people do choose to shrink their vision,
Hmm.
and I think that it's unfortunate. I think that a lot of people, a lot of people in my family in particular,
Hmm.
uh, it's like, oh, I don't need all of that. Oh, I can't, I don't. It's too much work.
Right.
When really you could have it if you did decide to just break it down into smaller chunks,
Hmm.
right? The way I remember that is this one quote that says, "You, the only way to eat an elephant is one chunk at a time. You break it down, one bite at a time." And a lot of the work I do is supportive in helping people see that
Hmm.
it is possible as long as you have a goal for the end of the day.
Yep.
What's a baby step? Baby steps matter
Hmm.
because they compound. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't get to experience is that compound effect of small actions that you take
Right.
because you've already decided that it's too much.
Right.
So yeah, it's all about breaking it down into bite-sized chunks.
And to get to that point and to begin to execute, I hear all the time that a lot of people say, I don't have the confidence to be able to do that. I need the confidence. Where does that confidence even come from, especially when you're coming out of a bad situation, which a lot of my audience is coming out of a toxic situation, toxic abusive relationship, whether it be physical, mental, or even a toxic family situation where their family has been the one suppressing and oppressing them. And where does that confidence, and how do you develop that confidence?
Right. I think that a lot of people have it backwards. They think that confidence is a result of evidence,
Hmm.
right? I see it, therefore I believe it. I know I can do it. I'm comfortable. The truth, what I'm learning firsthand, is that confidence is really just another word for faith.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's another word for faith. At the end of the day, unless you can tell the future, you
Hmm.
don't know what's going to happen,
Hmm.
right? You can be pessimistic and create negative things in your life, or you can be optimistic. And that optimism shows up as faith and it shows up as confidence.
Right.
So the way to develop confidence is to continuously put yourself in situations where you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And really, there's no, unless you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're not gonna know what's gonna
Right.
happen.
Hmm.
So just going after new things and seeing the results, learning from it. Suffer, learn. Would you say suffer, learn,
Change.
grow?
Change.
Change.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to be willing to go through the suffer so that you can get to the learn, so that you
Yeah.
can get to the change part.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to go through the suffer, it's dead.
Right. And a lot of times that comes with a lot of fear of failure, because whether someone has convinced them that they're going to fail in trying to achieve that goal that's too big, trying to become a millionaire. And what do you tell people who have that fear of failure or letting people down, and just that mindset that comes with trying to strive and achieve that next level?
Something that I've been recently interested in when it comes to that, and I think this definitely overlaps with the type of content that you talk about, is having that fear of failure kind of instilled in you from a young age, because as kids we'll make mistakes, and a lot of us were physically punished
Right.
for making mistakes instead of encouraged to learn from the mistakes.
Right.
And I was just thinking earlier that a lot of the mistakes I made had just negative results by themselves. And
Hmm.
then I come to my parents where I could have learned from the mistake and the punishment that I already got, the
Right.
negative result, uh, and just reinforce this idea that you shouldn't make mistakes.
Right.
Right. So maybe a lot of that fear of failure can go back to those early days where a mistake meant physical pain. Now,
Hmm.
I don't know if we always associate it with physical pain, but we definitely associate it with pain and not
Yep.
learning.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
that's the biggest thing. I've had to change my relationship with failure and realize that every failure, every challenge is an opportunity to grow.
Yep. I
Once
think
I've
what
done that, then
Yeah,
you'll say
I
it.
think I think one of the things I learned is that there's really, like, when you're really trying to go after it, there's no such thing as failure.
Right,
One of the things that I've learned throughout my process is that a lot of the my biggest accomplishments came from me failing. It
right,
was literally like a learning lesson where I was like, oh, I need to do this differently next time.
Right.
and all of a sudden you shift, you whether you change directions or you implement a system in place to make sure that you don't head down that path again. But some of the biggest accomplishments came from, one of the things that I talk to with people I work with is bringing a purpose behind your pain. Because a lot of times people say, I've been in this bad relationship for 20 plus years. I've wasted all this time, and I'm like, well, look at all the things that you've learned that now you can instill in your kids that they don't have to, and if you went through all that and you now are able to break that generational curse, or that generational trauma, um, it was worth it,
Right.
because now you have a purpose behind everything that you went through. Can you talk a little bit more about, just mindset when it comes to kind of making some of these changes, or kind of attacking some of that fear and that anxiety that comes behind some of these changes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that I always share with the people I work with my clients, is that anytime you set yourself up to do something you've never done before, you're going to get one of two results, right? You're either going to win or you're going to learn. And I
Right.
think this is a reoccurring theme.
Right.
But I think that it needs to be said over and over again, because it's not enough to just say it. You have to embody it. You have
Right.
to believe it. You have to practice it before you can experience what we're truly talking about. You have to put yourself in that situation, feel uncomfortable, feel miserable, feel frustrated, feel upset, and then still ask, what am I supposed to learn?
Right.
The moment you do that and it becomes habit, you're transformed as a person.
Yeah.
So that's the whole game. Is first you get the information, you have the awareness that
Right.
it's there. Then you're intrigued and interested enough to actually take it on and try it. And once you try it and get the results, it's done. It's done. There's no reason to fear. I mean, you can feel that energy, that
Hmm.
nervousness. But I had a mentor who kind of molded me in a way to where I'm feeling that nervousness, but
Hmm.
I don't associate it with fear. I associate it with excitement. It's
Right.
close enough,
Right.
and I'll say things like get excited. So that's another thing that you can take with you, anybody listening, is that when you're feeling scared or nervous, you can say, I'm not nervous, I'm excited,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
act as if,
Hmm.
show up.
When we talk about this, and we talk about these mindset goals, and confidence, and going after your dreams, and you literally can't talk about mindset without talking about like your inner circle. I tell people all the time that just because someone's in your circle doesn't mean that you're in your corner, and
Mhm.
realizing that as you begin to go after it, that you're gonna a part of the issue is the people that you actually have in your life that are chirping in your ear, telling you that you're going to fail, telling you, saying either negative things or things that are really disrupting your vision, disrupting your confidence. What's been your experience, or the experience of people you work with, on um, either changing or creating a new inner circle when it comes to mindset?
Well, what comes up first was prominent in my mind was just my own experience, because I remember hearing that you're the sum of the five people you hang around with the
Yeah.
most. And I remember having thoughts, well, like, uh, but how I'm supposed to just up and change my friends?
Right.
Like I didn't choose these people; they just came around,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
And it perplexed me for a while. But what I found was that when I started changing as a person, when I started taking full responsibility for what I was consuming, whether it was a friend that I was talking to, a relationship I was having, or music that I was listening to,
Yeah.
right? What type of content I'm consuming, because all of those things are having an impact on me. And when I started changing my YouTube subscriptions, when I started changing the playlist that I listen to, when I started changing the language that I used on Facebook, it's going to attract a certain person and repel
Mhm.
another kind of person.
Right.
So what I learned is that your vibe attracts your tribe,
Yep.
right? So
Hmm.
if you want to change the people around you, you've got to do the transformation work inside, and then slowly but surely you'll start seeing one person starts to fall
Hmm.
back, another person comes forward, and before you know it, you're surrounded by millionaires,
Right. Absolutely.
and that's how it worked for me.
Yeah. And you have to be, it's important to be circled with people of the same mindset, because not everyone wants you to achieve that vision, that goal that you assume is too
Mhm.
big. That a lot of people want you, as strange as it sounds, like to stay put because I think you put it in a very nice way of saying, like, as you begin to change, that people begin to fall off, and the reason why is because you're starting to hold them accountable. You're making that your change and your growth is making them feel uncomfortable because they're sitting there stagnant. Not
Right.
everyone wants to actually achieve that next level.
Hmm. Right. And it's hard. It's hard, especially when you're attached to certain people and you want to bring everybody with you. I definitely wanted to bring everybody with me, but I realized that as long as I was trying to bring everybody with me, I
Mhm.
wasn't going to be able to do anything for those people.
Right.
So I needed to break away and separate because it was the best thing not only for me but for them as well. Because if this isn't your path, if this isn't your calling, if you're not moved to transform and up level, I'm wasting my time trying to get you to see things differently and all of this other
Absolutely.
stuff. If my success makes you feel uncomfortable, that's your deal.
Right.
But if I plan to do anything, make any type of move where I can actually be supportive of you, even if it's financially or
Mhm.
whatever, I've got to separate and I moved clear across the country.
Yeah.
But now, because I've done that, I've inspired my mom. She just quit her job after
Mhm.
40 years. Crazy
Yeah.
stuff. She worked for the city, one of those secure jobs.
Yeah.
She quit her job to move down south, get into real estate. She wants to start building equity into stuff. My sister, she launched her clothing brand,
Wow.
Black Sheep, and her designs are dope.
hmm
And I just finished helping my grandmother write her first book.
Oh, wow.
So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
So
I'm
you
just
ended
now
up being
looking
a
back.
you ended up being a catalyst for change in your entire family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It wouldn't have happened if I didn't separate. If I wanted to stay around them, stay in that energy, I would have kept reciprocating that same old and still getting that same result.
Right.
So yeah,
Well,
I think, not to keep going on
you're
and
fine.
on, but I think it's super important because we look at love as staying around when sometimes the truest form of love is separation, is
Absolutely.
distance.
Yeah. Why is that? Why like can you go a little bit deeper into how is that for a lot of people? They think that to to love someone, that means that you stick by them literally no matter what. And uh, when they hear from someone like yourself and like myself saying, your truest form of love is to love yourself first, and sometimes you need to separate from these people, and that doesn't mean that you don't love them, but for some people it's just such a foreign concept to love someone and leave them.
Right.
What does that look like to you, and can you just go a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, I think that we have something backwards here. I think that we hear unconditional love and we associate that with an unconditional relationship.
hmm
See, me, I've switched that. My love is unconditional.
hmm
Doesn't matter what you do, where you are, what you believe in, gender, race, whatever. I'm gonna love you. My
Right.
relationship, however, is highly conditional.
hmm
Whether or not we speak doesn't mean I don't love you.
Right.
um and that's just how I operate, that's how I approach things. And to take it another level, i uh I like to address issues in relationships from both sides of the screens, right?
Yeah.
So you have, let's say you have a toxic partner.
hmm
I assume that nobody wants to be toxic. I
Right.
assume that your toxicity is a result of an imbalance within you, something that you haven't come to understand about yourself. Maybe it's a trauma, a hurt that you haven't healed, right?
Right.
Now, I realize that in you as somebody who loves you and as your partner. But if I stay around, I'm now enabling that to continue. Now
hmm
I'm preventing you from healing.
hmm
Now, the question is that love? I think the answer is no,
No,
right?
it's
Because
not.
now I'm in the way of your healing, of your ascension. So
hmm
if I truly loved you, I would leave you alone, not just because it's not what's best for me, but
hmm
it's also beneficial to you that I separate.
Yeah.
And that's love.
Right. In a lot of ways, I talk to people about covering up other people's wounds, by staying in these type of relationships at times. And sometimes those wounds, unfortunately, need to be exposed. They need to be brought to light for people to be able to correct them. But sometimes it's not up to you whether they get corrected or not. The other person has to choose whether or not they're going to do it. But meanwhile, it's up to you to take care of and take responsibility of your own wounds.
Hmm. Right, right, right. I
Well,
think that I would go as far as to call people that stay around in toxic situations. I would go as far to call them selfish.
yeah, yeah, you can
I
make
would.
a yeah. It is because what you're doing is you are when we're you have a need that needs to be fulfilled, right?
Hmm.
And so therefore you are rather than taking ownership of that, what you're doing is that you're placing that responsibility onto other people,
Right, which gives them the opportunity to be toxic to you.
right? Absolutely.
Right, as long as you need something from
Right,
somebody, they'll have a certain power over you.
right,
Right.
right, which is the definition of a codependent relationship pretty much.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. When we talk about, you talk about a lot about money. You talk about mindset when it comes to money, and I imagine that a lot of people who come to you have certainly had their financial struggles in the past. Um, what does that process look like of turning those finances around? When you say that someone wants to become a millionaire, obviously they're not a millionaire. More than likely, they're trying to become a millionaire because they've struggled, right? We're trying, a lot of times people want something that they can't even admit, they want something that is kind of like on the opposite end of the spectrum of where they're at. I can imagine that some of those people um, came out or coming out of either a financially abusive relationship or I mean we can come up with a lot of different backgrounds when it comes to finances. How does someone go from that nothingness to that big dream, that big goal that you were talking about earlier?
I think the first step is realizing what money actually is. I think that our understanding of money and finance stopped at the physical dollar bill,
Hmm.
right? And that's just it. When money is much more than that, it's energy, it's a
Hmm.
frequency, and it's a language, right? It's a language that you can become fluent in, and I mean literally and figuratively. Like the words you say can be attractive or repulsive to
Right.
money. uh and realizing that, I think one of the biggest things that helped me identify with millionaires was this idea that if I came up to you, right, with a hammer
Hmm.
and I said, I'll give you $1 million to knock your teeth out,
Hmm.
right, what would you say?
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, right.
No. Mm-mm.
So some people would. Some
Yeah.
people say, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'll just buy some new teeth."
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're crazy. Step to
Right.
the side.
Right.
But most people would say, "No, I'm not going to knock my teeth out with a hammer." And what that says to me is that your teeth are more valuable to you than $1 million.
Right.
Therefore, you already hold $1 million, and that's just in your mouth
Right.
alone. We're not even talking about
Right.
arms, legs, anything like that. So once I had that paradigm shift, I was more open to this idea of embodying energies,
Hmm.
acting as if, right?
Hmm.
People say fake it till you make it. I'd
Yeah.
rather say be it till you see it,
Yeah.
right? And once you do that, everything starts to shift, everything starts to change. How your posture changes, the words you say changes, your articulation changes, the things that you do as far as content creation, as far as what you believe you could do, your service
Hmm.
changes, how you serve other people. All of that stuff changes to become more aligned with
Hmm.
what it is that you've dedicated yourself to becoming, which is a millionaire.
Yeah.
And it all starts with the idea that this isn't just a fixed rectangle and that's the extension of its entire existence. This is something that is representative of a larger scale that you can't even see, but
Right.
you can tap into it,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
Did that make sense? I feel like I kind of like went there
Uh,
for no reason.
no, it makes perfect sense. And one of the things I hear you talking about in so many words is your relationship with money, right? So
Right.
obviously you can have a good relationship with money and change your vision with it and change the way that you see it and change your perception, as what you were talking about earlier. Um, but you can also have a toxic relationship with finances. And what does, how can one tell if they have a toxic relationship with their own finances? Because we throw around toxic relationships all the time, and then, they sit down with someone like yourself, or someone like me, and they realize that this toxicity is beginning to carry over into other types of relationships, not just another person, but with finances, or with my home, or with my emotions. What does a toxic relationship with finances look like?
Well, I had a bunch of different examples pop up in my head from like different actions, spending too much, saving
Mm-hmm.
too much, uh, all of these different things. The truth of the matter is that there's no one right way,
Mm-hmm.
to manage your money. I think that it all depends on what your personal goals are. So if you're not reaching your results, your financial goals, then I would look at the relationship that you have with money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all of this stuff that we're talking about is well and good, but as long as we're talking about something external, it's just a carrot. And I think it always comes back to the relationship that you have with yourself. That's going to extend into every area of your life.
Yeah.
So, toxic relationship with money is just one where you're frustrated,
Yeah.
you're insecure about your money. It's literally all of the same things that you would say about a toxic relationship with another person,
Yeah.
and
And
it's married where there you have a relationship with yourself.
right. And when we talk about toxic relationships, you're really trying to please, like you were talking about earlier, the external, trying to please other people. We have to talk about, why do you want to become a millionaire? Why do you want to change your finances? And quite often it's because they're trying to please somebody else. They want the car, they want the house, they want, because they're trying to please mom, they're trying to please dad, they're trying to please, sometimes they're even trying to please an ex who they're just trying to prove them wrong. So then we start getting to overspending, and really starting to, I'm not going to get into the whole defensive self thing, but where you're living based off of, basically external needs, rather than understanding, why do I even want to be a millionaire? Am I trying to break a generational trauma, that no one in my family has ever had a good relationship with money, and I want something to pass down to my kids and my grandkids?
Hmm.
Or am I just trying to show off for people? Right.
Right,
And a lot of times that can lead to some of these toxic situations that we were talking about before.
right. That's all. It's either you're moving in love or fear,
Exactly.
and I think most of us we move out of fear because we've experienced a lot of pain. So it's imprinted in our mind that at any given moment you're probably going to feel some pain. You're probably feeling some pain right now.
Yeah.
So it's hard to think in terms of peace, faith, love when you're not healed,
Yeah. When we talk about finances, when we talk about money, um, I've made this mistake before. I'm sure you have before. Um, but most people think that money, and especially if they are trying to create wealth, is all about a job. It's all about, like, and if I'm not making enough money here, that I just need to find another job where I'm making more money. So I go from $50 an hour to $70 an hour, and they think that I solved it, right? Here I go, not understanding the bigger picture, right? When we're talking about creating more money, more opportunity? Is it just about finding another job? I know you talk a lot about entrepreneurship. What does that look like? Do people need to quit their job like your mother did? How does one actually get to that point?
Yeah, I will go ahead and say everybody quit your job
Uh-huh.
right now. And the two people that hear this that are actually going to do it, they'll do it. I think that having a job in a lot of ways is actually the antithesis to making money or
Hmm.
building any real wealth. So I think that it's you're going to have to make a decision, right? Do you want to be do you want to one make more money? Do you want to be rich? Do you want to be wealthy? Do you want to create generational wealth? These are all four separate questions. These are not the same question,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
If you're creating generational wealth, then yeah, the other three might, come into play. But if you're asking for more money, that's just more money. And what we don't realize is that if you're making $50,000 today, and next year you're making $100,000, what we tend to do as human beings is we'll raise the amount of expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have this. You'll still have the same amount,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that was percentage wise,
Yep.
to invest in and all of these things. We think that more money is the solution, but what we're not realizing is that, especially in a job, we know that we're trading our time for money.
Yep.
We get that.
Mm-hmm.
What we don't pay attention to is the energy
Mm-hmm.
that we put into that job. And it's always so easy for people to say, "Oh, well, I'll just work on my business after hours, after I get off work, or on the weekends."
Mm-hmm.
And what happens for most people? You're so tired and
Mm-hmm.
drained and
Yep.
frustrated from the job that all you want to do is get that energy
Yep.
back. You can't get it, and you look for it in the bottle, you look for it in a club, you look for it in this relationship. It's not going to come that way. Now, granted, some people are disciplined enough, some people had a mindset enough to actually commit to working a job and starting
Yep.
a side business, and for that, kudos. That wasn't for me. That wasn't me.
Right.
I needed my whole day to like get my
Mm-hmm.
mind right,
Yep.
to be disciplined. I grew up being told what to do and when to
Mm-hmm.
do it my whole life. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So reconditioning myself to take responsibility over my life wasn't going to happen
Right.
if I was spending 8 hours at a job
Right.
continuing this old cycle. I needed to break my pattern. And
Yep.
I know a lot of people need to hear that too, but I think that a lot of people are afraid of being held accountable for telling somebody, go ahead, quit your job.
Right.
But I know that if you're crazy enough to do it,
Mm-hmm.
then that's something you was meant to hear,
Right.
right? And I'm
Absolutely.
cool with that.
Yeah. With the plan in place, I'm assuming, right?
I mean, of course,
Yeah.
but I don't assume that people are going to quit their
Yeah.
job without having some type of plan or idea or
Vision. Yeah.
something. I mean, even if the plan is to create a plan,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'll take it. Even if the
Mm-hmm.
plan is to create a plan, because some jobs are just so ridiculously toxic
Yep.
that all you can do is get out of it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I hope that it's not like blanket advice that everybody thinks is
Right.
for everybody.
Right.
But I would like to plant a seed to say, to get you to think about, well, what would it be like if I quit
Right.
my job? Would it be like if I had free time? What from what I know about myself, what am I likely to do? You know,
Uh, uh,
just play around with it.
speaking, to your point, that's what I did. I
Right.
quit my job. A lot of people, they thought I was crazy. They thought I lost it. I was. There was a point in time where I was driving Uber. There was a point in time where I was waiting tables, and people thought I was lost it. I lost it. That I was had a master's degree. I'm sitting here waiting tables. But I needed what people didn't understand, and even though I articulated it to them, that I needed the extra time. I needed my time to be flexible so I could work on Matt Pfeiffer coaching and continue to build it. And I wanted my time to be free, without some corporate boss. I could have easily just accepted 90 to 100K at some corporate job, and I was just like, I can't do it. I cannot. I did not feel comfortable asking people when I can take a vacation. They didn't,
Right.
I'm an adult, like what, like, or feel uncomfortable if I'm running late for work or whatever.
Mm,
It just did not, it never sat well with me. Right. And so
right.
for some people, like you said, some people out there hearing this, you may be in a position that's where you're at, and that you are looking to start a business or go back to school or whatever. But what I'm hearing you say is that there has to be a genuine purpose and there has to be a genuine happiness behind what you're doing.
Hmm.
Regardless if some people, they are extremely excited about their corporate job or whatever it is, and perfectly fine, right? But there has to be purpose behind that money mindset that you're talking about.
Absolutely, because it's not gonna go far. I think that we get wrapped up in what can I do,
Hmm.
How can I make money? What are the opportunities out there? And what I've learned firsthand is that opportunities are abundant. You can do anything. There's
Right.
literally a gazillion different ways that you can make money.
Right.
The question is, what do you want to do? And
Right.
the reason why that question is so important is because you can do something that you can do,
Yep.
but as long as you know that you can do something else and you don't really like what you can do,
Right.
you're just not going to have a good time.
Right.
You'll jump from this to that to this to that, or you'll stay in one spot and be completely miserable, and it's not worth it. I think that it's important that you spend time finding what you want to do,
Hmm.
finding your icky guy.
Yep. One of the things I hear a lot of people talk about when whether it comes to healing or even starting their own business or going back to school is time. Like
Mm,
they say things like, well, building taking 2 years to build a business takes too long. It takes too long to heal. 2 years a couple of years to heal and go through that process is too long. What are your thoughts on that? And I'm sure you've probably heard these similar comments. What do you tell the people that have that type of mindset?
well, first thing, if somebody says they don't have time, my like ace in the hole is like, okay, show me your schedule.
Yeah.
Show me your schedule. Show me where you blocked out time to do certain things, right? Because more often than not, somebody that says they don't have time don't have a schedule. They don't know what time they have,
Hmm.
right? They
Hmm.
don't know what time they have. And if it's going to take too long, if 2 years is going to take too long, then that's not something that you're passionate about.
Right.
Because I think that when you consider a passion, you're talking about a lifelong mission,
Hmm.
right? Now, unless you're planning on dying in the next 2 years, I would put it in perspective. You got 2 years to set yourself up for the next, what, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years in some
Right.
cases.
Hmm.
You can spend, and I wouldn't even set the expectation at 2 years. If you're not ready to commit to your business for 5 years,
Hmm.
10 years, then you don't deserve the 50 plus years on the back
Right.
end
Hmm.
of living a life by design, of traveling, of
Hmm.
leaving wealth behind for your family. I feel like the just the scale is so topsy turvy. It's like a no brainer.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like you
Absolutely.
work 2 5 years of your life like nobody would, so that you
Hmm.
could live the rest of your life like nobody can.
Right. And a lot of times I tell people, like, well, what do you have to lose? Like, you look back, you've been at this job. I mean, your mom's situation, I think you said 40 years, right?
Right,
And, would you rather, it's for some people 10, 15, 20 years that they've been in the same position, running, and always wondering what if? Well, what if you actually did it? Right?
right,
What if you did take 2 years and set it aside and went and waited tables or did something to, because obviously people still need to pay bills, and cut your expenses down and, lived on a bare minimum budget for a period of time. Because a lot of people are still living paycheck to paycheck anyway. So what difference does it make? Live
right.
paycheck to paycheck, right? With the freedom that you need to be able to build what it is that you want, build the life that you want. So at least you're happy.
Absolutely. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like, from sun up to sundown,
Hmm.
I do what I chose to do,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's so valuable that
Right.
I think people need to experience that firsthand. There was something else that you said that had triggered something in me. It'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think that taking ownership, especially when you're coming out of a toxic situation, taking ownership in every aspect of your life, whether we're talking about workplace dynamic, money mindset, people that you have in your corner, you have to be the hero in your own story.
Right. Right. I want to say that all of this stuff is really striking to me because it's really the same principles that apply to any subject, whether you're talking about your job, your money, your intimate relationship.
Yep.
You can literally just interchange the words and it could be about something else. It's the same process, it's the same
Bingo.
mindset,
Yep.
you
Bingo.
know.
Absolutely. Well, Coach T Spice, I want to thank you very much for hopping on with us. We appreciate your time. I am going to turn it over to you to, let us know where people can contact you, where they can reach out to you. Definitely tell us about your book. I'll give you your closing thoughts, and then we'll go ahead and close things out.
Let's jump in. Yes,
All
indeed. So anybody that is interested in connecting with me, I am my coach T Spice on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. Uh, I'm on Facebook, Talmud Spicer. It'll be in the description, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Uh, and you can find me for my link to my book. But here's what I'm excited about. I'm doing 10 gift spots, right? Uh, Coaching sessions for anybody who applies for one, right? So you want to get in contact with me because people who take my breakthrough calls, these gift sessions, leave feeling clearer in their goals. They feel ready to be consistent and they feel more confident. This is 100% for free. I'd love to sit down and talk with anybody and see if we can't uncover a way that I could be more supportive to you in achieving your dream and overcoming your challenges.
Awesome. Well, Coach T Spice, thank you very much. And tell us your TikTok handle. Tell us your Instagram handle. Which platform are you most active on?
I'll probably say TikTok first.
Okay.
TikTok is showing me a lot of love.
Okay. See, I think
TikTok,
TikTok's still showing a lot of people love right now, even though it's toned down since last year and definitely since the year before. But
oh, for sure. Yeah, I
mhm,
think a lot of people are saying they're like shadow ban and stuff, but it's probably just an influx of
right,
people. There's more competition.
right, absolutely.
Uh, but I'm my coach T Spice on both Instagram and TikTok.
All right, perfect. Coach T Spice, thank you very much for hopping on with us, and we will talk soon.
Pleasure and an honor.